So today I want to talk about the Destiny 2 Ash and Iron free update. This has been something I've been meaning to talk about for some time, but I really wanted to see how this update felt over a period of time, with the exotic mission not coming out at launch and things like that. And it's safe to say that this might be Bungie's worst update for the Destiny franchise, and that comes with a lot of lessons to be learned here. So we're going to be talking about a lot of it. Now, before we do, just want to say, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified on when I do drop more videos. With that out the way, let's jump in and talk about the execution, or maybe even the goal and execution of this update. So for a period of time, it has been clear that they stated and were aiming this to be similar to Into the Light, but this falls flat of being anything like that update. Now, granted, narrative-wise, it did have the lead up of the final shape, which was a very big anticipation for everybody, and it did deliver at the end of the day, but this Ash and Iron update is nothing like Into the Light. And that is just mind-boggling because this was the stated goal. One of the big reasons that Into the Light really worked is that it incorporated a lot of fun activity stuff. It also incorporated some really fun weapons that expanded the sandbox and didn't keep it so narrow. And then last but not least, it just felt like a well-rounded free update. It was a great update of getting players back into Destiny leading into the final shape, or it was a great update to help players catch up with anything they may have been missing, or just catching up with power and enjoying some of the other stuff in the game. Ash and Iron does none of that, and I think that's what the big thing about these free updates and why I like the idea of them. They should serve as a onboarding point or a reintroduction point for players, and Ash and Iron is not that. It fails in execution with activities, with loot, with even the narrative of either bringing players on board with the franchise or trying to bring people back into the franchise who may have taken a break after beating the Edge of Fate or may have been taking a break since the final shape. These free updates should be a way of juicing up, getting paid experiences excited, and Ash and Iron, if anything, hurt renegades on that end. Now, the overall experience of Ash and Iron was through the plaguelands. This was a location tied to Rise of Iron back in D1. Now, of course, it lost some of its color and redness because, well, Siva is dead, but everything here around Siva being dead is flat. It just was confirmed to happen out of nowhere, and yeah, the world around feels lifeless due to it. I know some of the dialogue from Saint states that, since Siva's gone, this can be a place where we humans can reoccupy again, and I think a cool part, or it's a cool thing of that, was seeing the life grow back into the plaguelands. I think that was a massive missed opportunity aesthetically of trying to maybe tell a story through the world, or just trying to make it feel like a place you want to go to and play on. Because let me tell you, even though I do like the reclaim activity, it's very dull, it's very empty, and it's not very bright. So yeah, the use of the plaguelands here is not it. It's not a location you can free roam around. It's just a location you play one activity through, and while that activity can be fun, it doesn't really do anything for the world of Destiny to really move things forward. Another thing we mentioned a couple times, story. The story here, there is none really, and that is very, very disappointing. Seeing some of the stuff post the Edge of Fate, and now with Ash and Iron, I do think by Shadow and Order, Bungie needs to recommit to a weekly story in some capacity, because it was clear that those weekly stories were keeping not only players engaged with the world of Destiny, but it kept us moving forward to some sort of goal with the narrative. And while the Edge of Fate narrative-wise wasn't an incredible experience, right now we are just kind of waiting and begging for more here, and the exotic mission failed to give us any of that, in my opinion. The narrative since the end of that incredible conclusion to the Edge of Fate campaign has just been dormant and not really moving forward. Maya Sundaresh, the conductor, has become an incredible villain, especially through some of the raid stuff, but outside of those realms, in Ash and Iron, nothing. I guess you could say, the fact that the Vex are becoming independent due to her losing control of them should be a massive thing, and I do expect it being a massive thing in Renegades, but this should have been like a very prominent thing we're seeing brewing and seeing the ramifications of so far in Ash and Iron. And in a past time with Destiny, this is something that definitely would have been explored, and it's just kind of crazy that the update of Ash and Iron doesn't have some sort of narrative we can participate in. I do think that is a missed opportunity. Yes, I know Into the Light technically didn't have a story as well, but it felt like it was much more connected to what was going on around Destiny than what Ashen Iron feels like at the moment. So yeah, not very good stuff there. And I think the last thing I want to talk about is going to be loot. Still piecing together and working on other PvE God Roll videos for you all to enjoy. But one thing that's becoming pretty clear when I'm writing these scripts and I'm diving in and I'm experimenting and feeling out these weapons is that compared to Into the Light, the actual loot for Ashen Iron doesn't really move the needle in any way of expanding the sandbox within this 6-month period time. This is something that I think Into the Light does very well, is that at its time the sandbox was one way, and Into the Light comes back in and expands that sandbox into a variety of options. If you look at the loot for Ashen Iron, it's very reminiscent of what we already can experience, with Solar, Stasis, and Strand being dominant energy types. And while there are other weapons that are pretty damn good as well, Ashen Iron didn't do anything to expand the sandbox. For example, Might of Mini Tool is a Solar SMG on the higher rate of fire things. The God Roll around that is going to be circling around Heal Clip, Attrition Orbs, Incandescent, and Burning Ambition. And guess what? That is something Ahab Char has as well, and in my opinion, a much better version of a Solar primary weapon. So with Might of Mini Tool, I was hoping maybe they expanded and think things better and making the loot here desirable in one way or another, and it's not. And in many different components of the Ashen Iron loot, you can find that they exist as an option. They don't exist as a desirable chase, and that is a issue with any update from Destiny as a whole, is when the loot doesn't feel valuable, the desire to chase and play the game begins to loosen. And I know a lot of people have mentioned things about player count, and I'm not going to panic about any of that, because for one, it's important to mention that the size of the team at Bungie working on the game and things like that during Curse of Osiris and now is a drastically different conversation. And while numbers may be similar, they are not comparable, especially with 7 years passing since then. So again, I think that this is definitely one miss from what's going on now. Renegades so far looks like it may address some of these issues, as well as a new artifact, meaning a new sandbox, new things to explore. But yeah, the loot here for Ashen Iron has left a lot to be desired. And I guess the last thing we'll turn around on when it comes to Shadow and Order is that they need to execute better with these free updates. They can't feel like it's a update to be an update, and I think that the aesthetic and the vibes around Ashen Iron was that it's just a big update that gives you a new reward pass and some other things, but there's not much that goes into it. Besides that, you're better off just waiting 6 months for the next expansion. And while I did love the Edge of Fate expansion when it came to some of the loot, some of the reworks of the foundations, Armor 3.0 and things like that, it did feel lacking, and I was hoping Ashen Iron was going to give that juice that the game needed, in the same way we saw Into the Light give Destiny the juice it needed before the final shape. And Shadow of Order is going to need to achieve that in a better way than Ashen Iron, and hopefully Bungie has learned a lot here. It's the unfortunate cycle from Bungie time and time again with Destiny, is that when they miss, they learn and they rebound in a very effective way, and then at some point they're going to revert back into a pit like this, and then they'll learn, adapt, and move forward. It does take time to address issues with games, especially in production pipelines like this, because usually 6 months is what it takes to see the game fully listen to what we are giving feedbacks on. So yeah, we'll see how things go as a whole, especially with some of the stuff, I guess you could say, with Renegades. I know content creators have played, but Ashen Iron, main focus here. Yeah, a lot of work needs to be done for Shadow and Order and these free updates to make them more compelling. And Ashen Iron, at the end of the day, a shitty exotic mission that's pretty quick, not really moving the story in any way. Cool exotic, don't get me wrong, but next time, Shadow and Order, the next free update, just execute a lot better, and understand that these updates still have a ton of weight, even if they're not paid experiences. But yeah, besides that, of course, I'm curious to hear what you have to say on Ashen Iron. I know the sentiment around the update is not going to be a good one, but this is a conversation we can have down below. So yep, be sure to drop a comment if you want to have a conversation about it. If you enjoyed the video, found it informative anyway, be sure to drop this video a like, helps with the video a ton. And of course, for more content for myself, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified on when my next video drops. We will be having a Solar video drop Monday, so be on the lookout on that. That's going to be a Titan one, and a lot of these builds going forward is going to be future proof leading into Renegade, so this is something you can hopefully use at the start of Renegades to kind of get you going and things like that. But yeah, pretty much all I have to say on that one. Hope you have a good one. Thanks for watching as always, greatly appreciate it. Until next time, ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.